pendings actually came down in the month that they're supposed to go up.
Spring is AKA, or also known as selling season. So that's one of the reasons that inventory goes up. It's normal. It always goes up in spring.
People are saying, hey, it's already tough for us, the citizens of this state, to go out there and buy a home, especially those who never owned a home.
There are specific lenders that I know that would go to different consulates here in the Sacramento region and would pitch loan products. They have flyers. Go there and check it out.
And I have a message for the people who are complaining. I think that there is a better way of going about this besides complaining and seeing yourself as a victim. Or very often it actually starts with you changing your lifestyle and you changing your mindset and not seeing yourself as a victim in this. A lot has been happening lately, both on the national level and in the local market. April real estate numbers came out, and there is something really unusual and weird about the numbers. We'll talk about that. Also, did you guys see the new bill that came out? They're trying to pass the bill that would make undocumented immigrants eligible for first-time homebuyer loan program. We will discuss this as well. And finally, the new Costco in Loomis is going to be open on May 23rd. This is actually great news for Auburn residents as well. And then regarding the NAR settlement, people are still confused and freaking out, but that's only because of fake news. So we will debunk some of the myths and give you the real facts. And at the end, we will answer the question, what are the normal business hours for a real estate agent? So let's start with the April market analysis for Auburn, California. So inventory of single family homes for sale increased by 25%, while pending sales were down in April, which this is very, very unusual. Usually from March to April, pendings go up because the weather changes, the market starts heating up, people are writing more offers, more homes go in contract. Well, when it came to Auburn, California, the numbers are actually down for how many homes are going into contract or how many homes went into contract in April.
Can I ask, how does that compare to some of the other markets that are similar besides Auburn? That would be an interesting point. Do you have that information?
Yeah, so when we compare it to Sacramento County, the inventory was also up and the pending sales for Sacramento County. And we know that Sacramento County is pretty big. We got areas like Citrus Heights, Carmichael, Folsom, and a lot of other areas. So, but pendings were up. They were up 7%. And the thing is that when I looked at Sacramento County, I also compared it to El Dorado Hills. And El Dorado Hills had a slight increase in pendings, but a 25% increase in inventory. One location or one city or subcity, Folsom, had similar situation to Auburn. Their pendings actually declined by 16%, which is also unusual. And the inventory went up by 33%. So it means, of course, the inventory goes up during April, May, June. Usually this is the time when a lot of sellers want to put out their homes for sale. So they wait until the rain stops, the weather gets better. So we're not surprised that the inventory went up. But of course, the seasonal changes are not the only changes that are occurring and what's influencing this. For Auburn, specifically Auburn, California, let's talk about what are the possible reasons for this. Why, for the first time in I don't know how many years, pendings actually came down in the month that they're supposed to go up.
Well, if you're looking at it in real estate terms, spring is AKA, or also known as selling season, right? You kind of see the emails that go out, articles written about it. Yeah, selling season. It has been like that for a long time, and it still is. So that's one of the reasons that inventory goes up. It's normal. It always goes up in spring. So that's one thing. The other thing I was thinking about is, the term golden handcuffs?
I know silver handcuffs, but
So in the real estate world and real estate terms, golden handcuffs refers to those sellers that have the amazing interest rates, 2-3%, right? So a lot of those sellers want to sell, but they have this amazing rate, and they're thinking they're holding off as long as possible because right now, when the rates went up and have been going up for some time, luckily now they went down a little bit, but they were going up for some time, and sellers are like, okay, so I'm going to sell my house. Yeah, it doesn't really fit my needs anymore, but what's out there? The inventory is low, and really I'm going to sell this house at that I have a 3% interest rate, and I have to go and buy another house at 8% interest rate. So they've been kind of the golden handcuffs where they don't want to sell because it doesn't really make sense. But now that they see that the rates aren't necessarily going down, I think a lot of those sellers have decided, you know what, I can't wait any longer. So I think that could be one of the reasons. The other reason is specifically for Auburn. There's a lot of people here that live here that have property, right? So they're on acreage.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been living in Auburn for a long time. Some of them are getting older of age, or they just don't want to take on the responsibility of having to face another spring or winter market of taking care of that property. This last winter and the winter before, there was a lot of things that people had to take care of. And maybe they're getting to the point where, like, you know what? I don't need this anymore. So they're like, let's go ahead and sell and move on, okay?
So you're saying that those are the reasons why inventory is up.
That and the insurance situation, which we can cover that at a later part. But those are my thoughts of what could have made the inventory go up specifically in Auburn. And that's kind of what I come up with. What do you think?
I don't really see anything that is unusual there. The reason why pendings are down, I think probably has to do with insurance situation in California that is somewhat of a problem right now, especially for those who are not really sure with this area. They don't have the people who can help them shop for a better rate, so they probably get an estimate for their insurance policy, homeowners insurance policy, and they're like, wow, this property is located in the area where the insurance is double or triple to what they were expecting, so obviously they look elsewhere. So I think that that's probably the case. I think that's probably the main thing, and obviously the interest rates.
Yeah. Speaking of that case, we have a listing in Auburn that we recently listed, and we got buyers that were interested, and they were shopping for for the insurance, and they got a wide range of different quotes. So it was interesting to me to reach out to the buyer's agent and find out, like, what did they get, because this is such a hot topic right now
Mm-hmm.
in this area and the price range. And they were telling us that they got quotes anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a year to $4,000 a year. Luckily, this agent actually took the time to get many quotes and find out what's going on, because all the other neighbors in that area, and it was located in a subdivision, didn't have the Cal Fire insurance, the California Fair Plan. So a lot of insurance agents kind of, I don't know if they rely on or they think that maybe buyers don't shop around, but they were giving quotes that are really high. And then when this agent did her homework and found out that none of the neighbors have it, why does this house have to require it? Then they started coming down. So they went to, like, between 20 and 30,000 to 4,000 a year. That's a huge difference.
I just recently did a podcast with Tom Jones, who is really well known in the insurance industry here in Auburn. He really brought a lot of wealth of knowledge when it comes to the California insurance situation. But I also think that people hear that, hey, in these areas, they're getting these letters from their carriers saying that we are canceling the policies, and more this started to happen. So I'm sure that there's probably this fear that's kind of spread out, and people are hearing these stories and they're concerned. They said, okay, maybe I can get a somewhat affordable, insurance policy right now, but what happens if in a few months or so we get a letter and saying the insurance company says we no longer insure this property, go find somebody else?
What comes to mind is the fact that in markets, when there's a problem, there's usually a solution. For example, if you bring it back to when the big bubble happened, right? And then there was all those foreclosures and short sales, and the market just tanked, right? How did they get the market to come back up? The government and banks came together, and different institutions came together, and they came out with products to help. For example, investors can buy a home with as little as 3% down, which we took advantage of that, right?
Yes.
So there was products that were invented specifically for those times. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is Mello-Roos, which is a tax that not all properties have, but certain properties have that are like a little bit newer, say like West Roseville and certain Lincoln areas, Rockland, lots of parts of Rockland. That was kind of a new thing. But why is it that there's still people that choose to move into properties that have Mello-Roos? Because now it's become so common that that's accounted for when you're doing the purchase price. So when you're looking to buy in that area because you want to go to those schools or it's close to your family, now you take that into account. And the sellers that live there, they understand that, hey, that's not really a positive, so they have to take account for that in price. So the market tends to kind of fix these things out. This is brand new to us in our area, so we're really keeping a close eye on it. We'll definitely keep you guys updated on how things work out and what new things happen. But being in the industry now for 20 years, I've seen so many changes, so many like different things that come, like challenges and stuff, and then they're met with, hey, that's your challenge, here's your solution.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll wait and see what happens.
One other thing that I kind of wanted to point out, so recently we were doing an open house. A lot of people started coming in, local people, and there were numerous discussions about the insurance situation. And what I took from overhearing some conversations is that there are some people that received the letter, their insurance carrier canceled. They reached out to their agent. Agent said, here's another option. They looked at it. Yeah, it's more, whatever. Let's just go with it. Let's roll with it. Then there's the other people who decided to be a little bit more resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
And they took some time to make a few calls, to get in touch with some people, to do the research, and guess what? They were the ones paying the least. And that's kind of like, in these situations, I think that's so important to not just, go off of a story that, the news, whatever, you get the story, a negative. Usually they sell negative stories, and just accept it as this doom and gloom, and that's it. Like you're so limited when you're living, off of like believing in stories like that and letting that dictate what you do in life and what kind of opportunities you get. Well, if you're a little bit more resourceful, and if you work with some of the people who are well connected, like for example, like just us having a relationship and knowing Tom Jones, you know how many connections he has, even though he's not like super optimistic about like how this is all going to play out, but he's so well connected. And if there's someone who is hesitating or can't really find the courage to pull the trigger and move on with their purchase or get something that works for them, there's always a way to be more resourceful, especially like working with our company. Like we are, in the last few years, like we've built so many great relationships, and I think that this issue should not be the issue that deters someone from making a decision on a purchase if they found their dream home.
Absolutely not. And the thing is that when you work with great agents that represent you, they can use that as a negotiation tactic. So let's say you do find your perfect property, right? It has amazing views, close to the freeway everywhere, but it's like you're in the foothills. It's like such a desirable area. Well, if you put somebody in there that is going to go to bat for you, they can use that as a negotiation tactic for the seller and say, hey, listen, this is the situation here. This is where we're comfortable paying for monthly. And unfortunately, with the fire situation it is right now, that's where it's at. So what can we do to make it a win-win? You want to sell your property, I want to buy it. This is something that we don't control, so let's find common ground. And I think it's a great thing that we can do. And if you have the right agent working for you, you can make it a win-win. And you know what? There's a lot of people that are working like Tom Jones behind the scenes that are trying to find solutions for this issue. They love the area. They love California. They love living in the foothills, and they don't want to make this a thing that drives so many people away, including them. They want to be here, right? So they're really fighting for it. So we'll see. Like, you get a property that you love, we'll go to bat, we'll get you a good price that will cover those kind of costs. Maybe a few years down the road, that will be taken care of. And guess what? That's a win-win-win for you as a buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next story, which brought a lot of controversy. There is this bill, it's called Bill 1840 in California,
Okay.
and this bill would make undocumented immigrants eligible for first-time homebuyer loan program. And I'm going to open up an article real quickly here, and this is what it says. Undocumented immigrants in California could qualify for first-time home buying loans in a recently introduced bill. A bill formerly known as AB 1840 would expand the eligibility requirements for the state's first-time homebuyer loan program to allow undocumented immigrants who live in the state to use it. And one of the reasons why this brought some controversy is because we hear these complaints lately from people who are saying, hey, we got a situation, especially in California, where homes have been going up in value, in price, over 10 years now, a decade. Usually there are cycles. Usually there's time when prices go up, and then there's time when prices come down. So far, prices have been going up. That's one factor. Then we got interest rates. And within the last 2 years, unfortunately, that's the case. They have doubled. Then there's that situation, right, where home prices haven't come down. They're here. The interest rates went up. Now the payment is higher. When you take into consideration the inflation and everything else. So what I'm saying is that people are saying, hey, it's already tough for us, the citizens of this country, of this state, to go out there and buy a home, especially those who never owned a home. It's already difficult for us. And now there's this bill that comes out, kind of, focuses more on the people who are not documented, that have come here through the border. And obviously we're not just talking about like, people think, undocumented immigrants, maybe those are the Mexicans. No, we're talking about people from all over the world, because that's how they make their way here right now. What do you think about this situation? Do you think that their concern and some outrage is justified here?
I mean, to be honest with you, when you brought this bill to my attention, I wasn't shocked because there has been loan programs and banks that have been catering to undocumented citizens for decades. It's nothing new at all. I know that
Mm-hmm.
might be a surprise to people. It's nothing new. I mean, there are specific lenders that I know that would go to different consulates here in the Sacramento region and would pitch loan products. They have flyers. Go there and check it out. Certain banks, I'm not going to name the banks, but you go there and there's flyers, there's business cards of lenders, agents, and whatnot that have already catered for that. So it's not a big surprise to me. Like I said, I've seen it for over a decade personally. Um, what I did hear when it kind of came into this bill was that those kind of banks and lenders were a little bit more specialized, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
had to have that specialized program. They have different names for them. As a matter of fact, we have a buyer right now on one of our listings, a brand new home where we're selling a community, and they are using a bank in the Bay Area, and they are using this program. I can't recall the name of it. We're going to be closing on Tuesday. Same situation, so it's not brand new. But I think the point of this bill is, and I haven't read it, so I don't know exactly, but I think that they're trying to make it to where it is what's known as a conforming or a conventional loan, meaning that all banks and all lenders could do it. Because typically in the past, it was a specialized
Mm-hmm.
program. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that that's what they're trying to do is streamline it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
The feedback that I've been getting, first time buyers are saying that they're already priced out of the market. That it's already so high with
Mm-hmm.
prices and interest rates like you're talking about. It's frustrating to them. But then the other side of the coin is sellers are saying, well, hey, maybe that's going to fetch me more money for my property,
Of
right?
course, I mean, for sure. And then these things, they're only going to keep the real estate market going,
Hmm.
because now you're introducing a pool of buyers
That didn't
that
exist
that
before.
yeah,
Right.
that weren't there before. Here it's more of a question of priority, or the state's priority. And if they're giving the undocumented immigrants such a priority, then that means that, first of all, that there is a big number of them. We're not talking about a handful of people. there has to be a
A demand.
significant
There has to be a
demand in
demand
this.
for
Yeah,
the state to do this.
yeah. So
Right.
so what I'm saying is that there must be a pretty high number of these individuals and families who are here, who are undocumented. What is being done for the people who are already here, who grew up here, who have right now a pretty tough time buying a house with everything? Like, I think that the reason why a lot of people are outraged about this is for the fact that they feel like the state is not prioritizing them first, coming up with like certain programs, or maybe not programs, but you know, the with employment, with opportunities, you know, to keep people in the state, the people that have been born here, the people who are citizens of this country and residents of this state. And I think that in a way, I think it's justified because they feel like, you know, the attention and the concern is on that group rather than on the people that have been paying taxes for years in this state, who have been contributing and working for the state. And I feel like this is one of the biggest pain points of a lot of people right now, especially like millennials, Gen Z, the younger generation. They're seriously having a hard time getting their finances together, getting to a point where they say, okay, I can now afford to buy a house.
To talk about the other side of the coin, or why this is such a hot topic, or possibly why this bill came into play in the first place, is, you know, some of these undocumented immigrants were dreamers or so forth. Like maybe they did come here with their parents and so forth. They don't have the documentation, and some of them may not have had as many opportunities as, say, some of the people that have been here for a long time. And so maybe they are just trying to level the field for them. I mean, at the end of the day, if this comes into fruition, it'll be brought onto the market and we'll see what will happen. It could be something that could never even be brought onto the market, so it might not even matter. And all this outrage is for nothing but just to upset people. These undocumented immigrants also still have to qualify for a loan. They have to pay taxes one way or another. They'll have to show things. So they will have to work extra hard, and in some cases harder than other people. So we'll have to kind of see, is this going to be a benefit to sellers? Is
Mm-hmm.
this going to be a benefit to these people? Is it going to make people want to work harder and do things better? Or is it really going to be a detriment to first-time buyers?
And I have a message for the people who are complaining. You know, I think that there is a better way of going about this besides complaining and seeing yourself as a victim. You know, instead of sitting there being lazy, not having any discipline, and just complain, read the headlines, watch the news, and complain, I think there are few things that these people can do. There are a few things that you can do if you're one of those people to have a better chance. And sometimes, or very often, it actually starts with you changing your lifestyle and you changing your mindset and not seeing yourself as a victim in this, but trying to say, you know what? Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's harder. But what can I do to reach that goal? If your goal is homeownership, you can always figure out, but it all starts with switching right here, switching the mentality from seeing yourself as a victim and to actually see yourself as, you know what, it's challenging, but we can figure this out, and being resourceful and not lazy and be disciplined. It all starts from there. So that's what I would say to those people who are complaining and are saying this is not fair. You know, there's always this group of people who are,
Always.
whatever happens, it's unfair, and you can never satisfy everyone. And you know what? One thing that I know for sure, and this is the thing that Patrick Bet-David talks a lot about. He says, you know, whether it's a bad idea or a good idea, time reveals everything, and time will show whether that idea was a good idea or a bad idea. So that's what
I just want to add on to that.
let's go.
Those of you that are concerned about this and don't know what to do, that's why we're here. You have the situation that you're trying to figure out. Don't figure it out on your own. You want to be a winner? You call winners too. And we have a circle of partners around us that can help you figure out, how do I need to get from where I'm at to where I need to be? And that's something that we love to do here at eStock Realty. Give us a call. We'll help you guys plan that out step by step to the point where we know a timeline of, bam, that's when you're going to be a homeowner.
Wasn't that good? She's good at this. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next story. So, finally, the Loomis and Rockland Costco is opening up in less than 2 weeks on May 23rd. And this is not just great for the Loomis population and Penryn, which is right there, but I think this is going to be great for Auburn, California residents, because a lot of people from here, the closest Costco is the one right by Galleria.
Mm-hmm.
And, I usually, once in a while we shop at Costco, and it's been a while since I've been.
I haven't been in years.
But one thing that I will tell you for sure, every time I drive by that Costco, I'm looking at like how busy the gas station is and the parking lot. I'm like, what makes people want to go there? And it's always like that. So of course, there has been a lot of new developments around. A lot of people are, have moved to Rockland, Roseville area. And so you got people from Auburn driving to that Costco. You got people from Meadow Vista
and
everywhere.
Further up north.
So, but here's the thing, like when I thought about this, I'm like, okay, it would have been great if this Costco was like closer up here. But at the same time, like if a Costco would have been built in Auburn, it would have been a disaster when it comes to traffic. 49 is already getting congested. Remember when in 2008 we were driving from NOLA Court down to the Valley? There was barely any traffic. The highway was empty almost all the time. This new Costco is only like 10 minutes away from downtown Auburn.
Costco used to be my favorite store to go to when we lived in a different area. I haven't been to Costco in years because you have to plan on being there half your day at least. First of all, they open late, 10 o'clock. You look at other places like Sam's Club where you can get in there super early, okay? Second of all, you go there, there's so much traffic. Just the parking lot is constantly filled. Doesn't matter what day you go there. So for me, like I haven't been there. And again, I'm somebody that I enjoyed Costco. It's always one of my favorite stores to go to. I loved it, but I can't justify taking a day off from doing all the stuff that I need to do, or half a day off, right, to go to a store like this. I just can't. So I've avoided it. I've found other avenues, but we'll see. I'm one of those people that I'm looking forward to it, for it to open, to see, like, is it going to divert some of the traffic from the Rockland or Roseville location? How is it going to change these things here? Or is it going to be creating more traffic to where now I'm going to have to avoid Sierra College? I don't know. But we have these people that are probably more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more careful than I am. Because when I'm in Costco, they always have these great new products. So I'm one of those people. I like to go to every aisle and like, oh, that's new. I got to try that.
How do you have time for that?
I mean, it's great. That's why I don't have time for it. But then there's these people that are that's the word I'm looking for, disciplined, that they go into Costco because they're like, I need to get grapes. I need to get this and that. They're in and out. I haven't had the discipline to do that because Costco has so many great things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will test it out and I will get back to you guys. This will be a test that I will do on myself, okay?
Are you going to be the first one? Are you going to document
I will not
this?
be the first one. There's already going to be a line. There's Megan. This is opening right next to her house.
Go with Megan and David.
She already has plans to be there right when it's opening because they're going to do this whole thing. Maybe we should take the camera. We'll take David with us, me and Megan, and we'll go shopping.
By the way, speaking of David, we need to get you a mic. We need to get you a mic so when we're doing this, you can give your insight here and there. So I think that would be great. Another thing on the website on ABC 10, the story about the Loomis Costco, as part of the agreement, Costco will make $3.75 million in payments to Rockland to mitigate the impacts that the Sierra College Boulevard corridor will have. So, and so the Costco and Loomis will not have a gas station.
Okay.
So it's not gonna have. Okay, so it's not gonna be as busy because a lot of people go to Costco just for the gas station. So those ones that have a gas station on on the parking lot, those are the ones that get crazy amount of traffic.
Right.
But I still think that there's gonna be an issue with the Sierra College and Taylor for people coming in and out of Loomis and Penryn, because a lot of people, like for example Lincoln, right? Lincoln is just up Sierra College, a few miles up Sierra College, where 12 Bridges,
Right.
the Catavadera,
Mm-hmm.
those communities over there. I'm sure that all those people are going to start coming to this Costco instead of the Rockland one or the Roseville one.
Maybe then I'll go to the Rockland one.
No, but that's actually good, because a lot of people, like, they bought that piece of land in Loomis for a long time, and they have been going back and forth and trying to figure this out. They have been kind of fighting with, I think, with like Caltrans, the city of Rockland, and everything. So the fact that it's finally there, I think it's a much needed in the community, because like I said, that one by Galleria was just getting congested to the point where it's like, yeah, even though you have a membership there, like you don't want to go there. Let's move on to the next story. So let's talk about the NAR settlement. This week I was at a Rotary meeting. Person, I forgot his name. I think his name is Steve. He's from one of the local real estate offices, and he came up to talk about the NAR settlement and the insurance issue. The questions that I heard people ask him made me realize that, okay, there's something going on. People are not getting the full picture, and they're not getting the facts about what actually is going on, what's going to change, what was the NAR settlement. I want to clarify and highlight the actual facts. And for those of you who maybe, you've heard from different sources about what this NAR settlement thing is and what it means for you, you can actually go on the NAR website if you'd like, if you have access to a computer. And they even have a section there on the NAR website where it says, the title of the section is called "The Truth About the NAR Settlement Agreement." And below here, under the title, "Changing Business Practices," and it highlights only two things that are changing. And here it says, and I'm going to read if you don't mind. NAR agreed to create a new MLS rule prohibiting offers of compensation on MLS. Rule number 2. NAR also agreed to create a new rule requiring MLS participant working with buyers to enter into a written agreement with their buyer before the buyer tours a home. Those are the only two things. All of this other stuff, everything is just noise. These are the only two things that are changing. So some of the myths that we have heard that are still out there, let's talk about them, and let's just debunk them right now. It is not true that buyers' agents are not going to get paid anymore. It is not true that prior to this, it was mandatory to pay certain percentage for the commission of the sale of the home. Commissions were always negotiated. What else? Like, I know that there's a lot of other things that are going out there. Like,
well, some of the people are saying that sellers don't have to pay buyers' agents anymore.
Yes.
You can try it. You'll see what kind of offers you get. Probably wouldn't get the best offers for your house. We'll see. I mean, the one thing that's been constant with real estate, again, I'm doing this now for 2 decades, there's always change. There's short sales, there's foreclosures, there's this, there's that. There's always change. Market is booming. People are buying homes with no appraisals, no inspections. There's always change. This is just another change, and honestly, it's just paperwork. It's just a couple of added steps. Instead of negotiating up front, there's going to be more processes to negotiating. I mean, it's
and again,
not that big of a deal.
What's important to point out that just because NAR settled it does not mean that they admitted any guilt. In fact, like NAR, like they in this case, it's not like they've done something wrong.
They're adamant about every like first or second sentences like that. They're adamant and say it's not true. Commissions were always negotiated, and anybody that's actually been in the real estate industry knows that. So it's like it's nothing new.
Yeah, and I mean, for us and for most realtors, NAR has been a great resource. There's a lot of good information, a lot of different things. Obviously, for some people get annoyed by all these different added rules that continue pile on each year, the contracts and all that. But overall, again, just to clarify, NAR is not admitting any guilt. They only settled because they I've heard that one of the reasons why they settled was because they did not want additional similar lawsuits to continue coming up, and also the members of NAR also are protected, so that
Yeah.
now with the settlement, agents, realtors who are part of NAR
Brokerages.
brokerages, they cannot be sued because of the commissions. Or
Yeah, in,
right?
in their agreement, it was brokerages that do a certain amount of business per year or less are covered, because that's what happens when you put money hungry attorneys into this and they sniff like, hey, they want some money. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, now we can, and they start compiling lists of like, we're gonna go after them and them and them and them and them and them and them, right? Because they get a percentage of all these lawsuits that they could win. So one of the reasons that NAR decided to settle was in order to protect the members, brokerages, and agents, so that they're not, that they can focus on servicing their clients instead of having to worry about these lawsuits that are just going to come after them because these attorneys are like, did you buy a house in the last 5 years? Did you have an agent represent you? And have all those commercials that come on TV. Like, we need to get back to business. Forget about it. That's it.
But you know what? As I was thinking about the second rule about the agreement that the agent has to have with the buyer before showing them homes, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it's actually a great thing, because now a buyer's agent will have to think and say, huh, what kind of services am I providing to my client? And if in some, like if for example there will be an instance where the selling agent, the selling broker is not going to offer any commission, how do you show, or how will you prove to your buyer, to your client, that your services are worth compensating you for? Because before it was just like, it was given, right? You show homes most of the time, the typical, there was a commission that was most of the time standard. Now that, so buyers agents, as long as they wrote the contract, their buyer could have found the house on Zillow, on Redfin, on Realtor.com, or driving by an open house, walked in the open house on the weekend, and then they call the agent, hey, write this offer. So they could have just written an offer, had a few phone conversations throughout the transaction, and then get a nice commission check. Well, now you have to actually show your client what your services are and why you are of value to them, why you are a good resource, why are you the guy or the girl, the agent that they should work with, which I think is a great thing.
I agree.
And then you can, on the bottom there, you can also write like your working hours, from 9 to 5. Please don't call me after 5. If you call me after 5, I'm going to start charging you $100 per minute.
Yeah, those are the kind of agents that won't succeed in this industry.
So
Yeah.
what are the one of the questions that I mentioned we're going to discuss today that came in, what are the normal business hours for a real estate agent?
It's interesting. We had a first-time buyer consultation yesterday, and it's very rare that you get a question like this. But this buyer was very well-researched, has a regular job, and asked us like, "What are your business hours?" And I've given this some thought before because I'm the kind of person that I'm kind of on the clock 24/7. But the reason why I feel that way is because most of our buyers have full-time jobs. They are the ones that work 9 to 5. They work the what's called banker hours, right? So how can we be expected to be only on call when they're working? That's not fair, right? So what are we expected to do as good agents? We're expected to be available when they're available. And if you want to be successful in this industry, you have to think that way. This is not a 9 to 5 job. This is a job that you work weekends. You're expected to work weekends. You're expected to work after hours. You need to be available to your clients when they're available. And if you're not, maybe this isn't the right business for you. Or your other option is to get a team and a system that if you can't be available during that time, you have a team that does help you out or a system that helps you out. But we're in this because our fiduciary duty is to our clients. We have to make sure that they get the best of us, they get the best advice, the best deals, the best everything. And if you're not available the hours that they're available, how are they supposed to get all that time, all those duties that you owe them, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that um, for especially for a real estate agent who is starting out, they have to be available all the time, no exception. However, if you want to get to a point where, you know, you want to have a little bit more time for your family, for something else that you're working on, that you should think about building a team, having a system, but only then should you say, hey, this is when I'm available. If the service that you provide matches with the one that you provided when you were available all the time, or is even better now because you have certain systems in place and a team of people, someone who the client can call and they can feel confident that this person has got my back, you know. So until then, like, you can't really have the luxury of dictating, oh, I only work during this time, and try working with a client and a couple times not answering the phone. See what happens.
Good luck.
And then there are certain clients who, the people that just, they need to talk to you. They don't want to talk to anybody else. So, you know, so again, like, if you have a team, if you have a system, then you better communicate from the very beginning to some of these clients who are so demanding that, hey, this is the level of communication. This is how we communicate. This is when I'm available. If you really need to reach me, you know, I will call you back or whatever, like whatever the system is. But for most agents, for most real estate agents, I'm talking about 95 to 97% in the industry, there is no such thing as a 9 to 5.
Absolutely
Can't be.
not. You got to remember that your clients, this is one of their biggest investments in their lifetime. They don't do this every day like you do. This is done once or twice in their lifetime, possibly more depending on, you know, their situation, but it's such a big deal. It's their biggest amount of money that they're going to spend, right? And if they're having second thoughts, if they had a conversation with their friends who's saying, "What are you doing? You're so dumb buying a house," or this or that, and they let that fester, they try to call you, and you don't answer. And so they have these thoughts, right? And then going into bed, like, I'm the kind of person where if something's bothering me, I can't sleep at night. And my thoughts just get louder and louder and louder, and they start to overweigh things, right? And so in the morning, you're going to get a text from your client that says, "I can't do this, send a cancellation." Had you answered that call, addressed their needs, listened to what it was that they were worried about, concerned about, and had valid and good explanations to get those fears, you would have saved the deal. You would have saved the headache. You would have helped this family. Since you weren't available because it's not your hours, you just spent all that time getting this client, getting them accepted on a property, you know, getting into contract, maybe could have been like really close to closing. But because you weren't available for that client at that time, you just lost it all. Was it
Mhm.
worth it for your 9 to 5? I don't think so.
Woo! Um, Another thing that I would add, so the way I would answer this question what are the normal working hours for a real estate agent? I would answer like this: whenever the client needs you. That's it. Simple as
Done.
that.
Sealed.
Okay. So with that said, this wraps up our conversation today. We really hope that you got something valuable. We will continue to bring you the latest market trends and stories in an effort to provide you with valuable information that can help you make better decisions and stay informed. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, here's another one for you to watch. And if you don't want to miss the next video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button.